I'm here with Elise, and she is a alumni of the Laptop Freedom Program. And we're just going to take this time today to hear about her journey and why she wanted to become a VA, where she's at now, what she's using her skills for, and so on. And just really have a great conversation about how her journey got started with LFP. So why don't you start us there? Like what got you looking into becoming a virtual assistant and then choosing LFP?
That is a good question. So I worked in social work for the longest time, and the last agency I worked with, it became really stressful and overwhelming. And I know that people use the word toxic a lot recently, but it was for me. It was pretty toxic, and our employer had made it very clear that there was nowhere else to grow, that I was going to be staying in the same position. You had to wait a year for maybe a 20-cent raise. Like, that was pretty gracious, a 20-cent raise. And it was just a lot. So I loved my job and I loved what I did for the community and for the families that I worked with. But at the end of the day, I was just like flooded with anxiety and all of this stress because of the environment that I was working in. And so I wanted something different. I knew I wanted something different. I had tried a couple of different MLMs along the way and found some great products and met some great people, but it wasn't really a good fit for me. So I was still looking. So I was searching Facebook for remote work of any kind, just to kind of get an idea of what was out there. And this is all prior to shutdowns and COVID and everything, where we realized how much we could do online from home. And I came across the Laptop Freedom Program's Facebook group. I sat in that group for about a year, just watching women come in and out and graduate from the program. And even like the women just on the Wanderlust Freedom page, not even in the Laptop Freedom group, because I wasn't a part of that yet, but they were just so supportive of each other. And there was so much good information. I started to think that it was something that I could do, because I had administrative backgrounds, and, obviously I'm on social media all the time. So I was like, that's something I'm familiar with. I can support people with that. So I messaged Rebecca, and then I ghosted Rebecca. Like, I did. And I'm so happy that she still loves me, because it's funny looking back on the conversation, because she asked me on a scale of 1 to 10, how ready are you to jump into this? And I think, if I'm remembering correctly, I think I said a 6 the first time. And then I didn't respond. I don't know if I was just anxious. Like, my job that I was in was the first job that I had that had everything. Like, it had great benefits. It had like sick time, bereavement time, time off. Our agency shut down for 2 weeks a year, Christmas and like July weekend or July 4th week, and we got paid for that. Like, it just had really great benefits, and it was the highest I had been paid in the social work field, because usually you don't get paid that well. And it was so stable, and the health insurance was so good, that I would always think, like, yes, I'm miserable, but like, I don't pay anything for the dentist, and I don't pay anything for birth control and all of this other good stuff. And it was scary thinking of leaving that job, and my husband doesn't get health insurance through his work. So a lot of those factors just kind of came into play, and I was too hesitant, too nervous to really dive in. Well, a few months later, I messaged Rebecca again, and I just apologized. Like, I was like, I'm so sorry. I wasn't ready. I'm ready now. And she said, on a scale of 1 to 10, how ready are you? And I was like, 10. I'm ready. I want to do this now. So I joined the cohort, the Laptop Freedom cohort that was about to start. Like, it was beginning, I think in less than a week when I signed up. I got really lucky that I was able to still join. And it was amazing. Like, the next few months in that cohort, meeting those women that I never would have met otherwise. I'm from Ohio, and I don't think any of them were even near my state. And like, they were so supportive when we were all learning together, and everyone had their own expertise that we could share, and learn from each other. It was just really great to see that there was a possibility outside of my stable job, the one that I couldn't let go of. And, going through that, it was a little scary, because in the beginning, you don't really know what questions to ask. That was my biggest thing. We would get on the coaching call and I would listen to the other girls, and I would ask some questions, but at the end I was like, I know that there are more questions that I can ask. I know that there's more that I can be getting out of this, but in the end, it was just like putting in the work. And like Rebecca says, like just jumping in and actually putting those like exercises and practices like in real life, start to use them, and then you'll get the questions. Then those questions will come. Like, my thing was, I wanted to wait until I was 100% ready, until I knew everything. And that's just not how it works. I mean, that's not really how life works in general. But so I learned a lot, was able to hone in on the skills that I already had, and then learn some. And then she didn't give us two options, but she told us that there were a few different ways that we could approach virtual assisting. And she said, you can either take any job that you can find. She told us how to find clients and where to look for them, and how to have onboarding calls and things like that. And she said, you can either take everything that comes your way, or you can wait for your unicorn client. And I love unicorn client, that phrase. But I decided to wait, because if I was leaving this job that was so stable but toxic and going to something that might be a little unstable, I wanted it to not be toxic. Like, I wanted it to be a purposeful shift. So I waited and I interviewed a couple of times, and it just wasn't a great fit. And then I finally found my first client. It was actually a business. It was a 2-woman business. So they had just recently started, and wonderful, wonderful women. Like, I'm so glad that I had that encouragement from Rebecca to make that choice. Like, you can either wait, or you can take whatever comes your way. And I'm just glad that she was open to having that conversation, because I think taking anything, I would have just ended up miserable and maybe burning out and, all that fun stuff. So I worked initially for a social media strategist, and I learned so much from her. I'm actually still working with her. And I'm still working we'll say 9 to 5. It wasn't technically those hours, but at that time, I signed my second client while I was still working my full-time job. And she was a life coach, and I just worked for her on the weekends. I made it very clear, like, I'm still working my 9 to 5. I have another client as well. I'm just going to do this on the weekends. And as long as you're upfront about those conversations, it went really well. I'm actually still working with her too. And so I had those 2 clients plus my full-time job for about 5 months. And then around December 2020, I realized, for the past 2 years, I had been setting a deadline for myself, like, okay, August, I'm going to quit my job. It's going to be the end of this. Like, I'm going to move into something better. And it, had come and gone for 2 years in a row. It had done that. And so it was December of 2020. And I sat down with my husband and I said, this is a shift that I need to make. Either I shift now, or this is just going to be not knocking side hustles, but this is just going to be a side hustle. And I don't want this to be a part-time thing. I want this to be a full-time thing, and finally do something and support people in a space where I feel appreciated and be able to connect with people that I want to work with. That was one of the biggest takeaways for me with the Laptop Freedom Program and being a virtual assistant, was being able to choose the people that you surround yourself with. That was a huge piece for me. There are a couple of other reasons, like I really wanted to get a dog. And so now that I'm home more, we're actually looking at buying another house. And then I've been promised that as soon as we move, I will get a dog. So I'm super excited. But so for a couple of different reasons, that was exciting. And I was very happy my husband and I had those conversations. And he was like, well, I support you if you're ready. When you're ready, just shift. And so I kind of did the dance a little bit. I was like, okay, well, I'll wait until after Christmas because we get a week off paid, and I'll wait until this, and I'll wait until this. And until finally I was like, if you don't do this now, August is going to come again, and you're still going to be in this job. So I put my notice in, and it was amazing. It was everything that I thought it would be. My supervisor could have cared less. And, I was just like, why was I so nervous about what they would do without me, or any of those thoughts that kind of come along, because they had my position out in the world before I even had time to tell my coworkers that I was shifting out of the job. So I was very thankful. Zero regrets. Like, ever since I put that notice in, it was perfect timing because I had Christmas break and I had a whole week that I was off paid, and then I had like 2 more weeks to work, and it worked out really well. January 15th of 2021 was my last official day. And then I had lined up, actually, I had lined up a couple of onboarding calls for the coming week. Now, in my mind, and you can stop me if I'm talking too much. I feel like
nope,
I'm just...
You're fine. Nope, okay. I'm taking notes. Keep going. This is all so good.
Good. In my mind, I had thought that, okay, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to have so much time on my hands. Like, I only have 2 clients right now. I'm going to have time to like clean the whole house and reorganize and redecorate, and it's going to be great. And I'm going to do all of this stuff. I'm going to work out all the time. Like, that's funny. It's funny because I scheduled those onboarding calls and I had 4 of them. So I quit Friday. I had 1 Saturday, 2 scheduled Monday, and 1 scheduled Tuesday, and they all signed on. Yes, it was incredible, and I am so grateful.
So amazing.
Yes, and so I immediately had 6 clients. Was making what I was making at my job that I had just left. But I started with these 6 clients and really hit hard into boundary work. Personally, I think that's always been an issue for me. Like, I'm a recovering people pleaser, and so boundaries was always something that I was working on. And it was something different kind of for each of the 4 that had just signed on. And 2 of them were great. They had worked with VAs before, but the other 2 hadn't worked with VAs before. And so
yeah, and they get excited. They
yes.
get so excited. And it's like they, as business owners and entrepreneurs, they get this help and they don't realize that you either have to pace what you bought. Like, if you bought like a 10-hour package, like, how easy it is to work and for 10 hours a week.
Yeah.
It's easy, but you want to make it last 30 days. Mm-hmm. So like, it's almost like you have to learn how to it's like working out when you're learning how to run and you want to pace yourself at 10 minutes a mile. Well, you have to learn to pace your clients at that 2.5 hours a week.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. And now that I say that, like, I really just think it was me learning to boundary set in the beginning, mm-hmm. because all of my clients are great. The ones that I still have and the ones that have moved on. But it was just that conversation in the beginning that I wasn't used to having, because my first clients that I had signed on like 8 months ago and had been working with them for a while. So it was a lot of, letting them know, like, hey, when are we going to meet? I meet weekly with my clients so that we can kind of keep up on, if priorities shift, like, so I can shift their agenda, all of those fun things, and just schedule out their week. But what I found happening is that I was kind of wearing too many hats. I wasn't just in the role of a virtual assistant. I was coaching them and I was doing other things, and I was wondering why I was so exhausted because I was filling all of these roles. My cousin likes to say, stay in your lane. I wasn't staying in my lane. I was all over it. And, kind of going through those boundaries and pulling back a bit and having those discussions with them. And learning to, stay firm around invoices. If I sent an invoice out and it wasn't paid, I had to be firm and like, I can't do your work until the invoice is paid. And that's something that originally I would be like, oh no, I know they're good for it. Like, I'm just going to do it and it'll be fine. And everything is great. But it was just a lot of boundary setting. Like, I'm not available on weekends. With one of my clients, it became really clear, like I had to tell her when I was working on her stuff, so that we could figure out a system of her getting back to me that worked. So it was a lot of boundary setting, and figuring out what exactly I was doing as a virtual assistant. Setting people up on Instagram is a lot of what I do, and now it's shifted. So I work a lot in social media, Instagram world. But for the past few weeks, I've been working mainly in copywriting, which is really exciting because that's been my
You're such a good copywriter.
Oh, thank you.
I would know.
Yes, I'm super appreciative of that because that was such a fun project. So that's what I've been doing for the past few weeks. So I do schedule posts and I help them with their social media campaigns and things like that. But I feel like I'm just in my element with writing, and I've always wanted to write, and to be able to do that working from home and still be connected to the women that I went through the cohort with, and even the larger alumni group has been amazing because I do work in content writing, but if they have something that comes up that I want to give a shot, like I had email campaigns, and we had that training in the course, but I had never done it. And so I was able to say, yes, I can do that. And I started the project and I had a question and I tried to YouTube it. And then I messaged the group, hey, has anyone worked with MailChimp? I'm stuck on this. And I immediately got a response. Like, it's such a supportive group to be a part of. And it's nice to have that support when, you're not surrounded physically by other virtual assistants. It's not like I go into an office and I'm working with 5 other women doing the same thing. But that virtual connection, it has been really amazing. And I'm really happy where I am now.
Yeah, I think that's something about LFP that we want people to know before, like you said, when you're researching, investing in someone, it's always good to invest in your business. But like, where can that investment get you later?
Yes.
And that's something with LFP that it's always around. Like, we don't take your course access away. Like, I'm a 2018 alumni for LFP, and I can still log into my Thinkific and everything is there.
Yeah. And it's updated. And so it's not the program that you had back in 2018. So when things shift and platforms change and new programs come up, like when I went back into the Thinkific, which is what it's on, to see what I could find more about email marketing, like there was so much more information in there because other things had opened up, because COVID had come along and the world had just kind of expanded everything virtually. So that's the thing, like investing in a coach is wonderful and you do learn a lot. But in most cases, when you aren't paying for that coach anymore,
you're not paying for the service anymore. Like that is something to ask. Yeah. Like, how does your service now help me later?
Yeah.
And for LFP, it's your course, you have it for the rest of your life. You have the alumni group, and in the alumni group, a lot of really great things are happening. We're starting monthly trainings, and it's not just, women being there to support each other. It's actual physical things that keep us on track, that let us know who's doing what, and connecting with everyone.
Yeah. Networking, education, all of that. I still, am connected with all of the women I went through the cohort with. So our little small group, we still have that LFP, January Laptop Freedom Program group that we were in with just, I think, the 8 of us, if I'm counting correctly quickly. But, and then we're connected to that larger alumni group. So it's so nice because I know that, because it's happened before, if I come across someone who's hiring and it's not necessarily my scope, like what I like to do, I know so-and-so has worked really hard on it and she loves it. So I'm saying, you know what? Hey, I have this friend who does a great job with that. Can I give you her information? And they do this for me. And it's an amazing thing to be connected with.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to move on to like what you're doing. So we are kind of talking, we're getting into what you're doing now, which you're doing a lot of social media. And then you're moving into a little bit of copywriting. So is there anything else that you would like to tell about that or share with us about how it's like, I mean, you even said, oh, I get to write from home. Like, there's a lot of really great emotions coming up, but, just moving from LFP into what you're doing now and what you're specializing in, and just telling us more about your business.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely been a journey. I know it's only been like a year and a few months, so that may not seem
a
like
lot can happen in just 3 days.
Yeah, that's so true. So true. But I started out wanting to, I knew that I had some idea of what social media was, and I knew that I liked to write. So the original position I applied for was social media manager, but the application was actually creating copy for one of their clients. So that's what drew me to that. And like I said, I've learned so much, and I've been picking up little projects here and there and really figuring out what I like. And that's a beautiful freedom, I think, because you're not just stuck in one box. So even if I do copywriting for a while and then I decide to pivot, I can pivot. I don't have to lose
love
everything.
that. I'm not stuck in that one box.
Yes. Yeah. And that's just really freeing, because in a typical job, if you don't want to participate in that role anymore, you have to find a new position. But when you're a virtual assistant and you're working for yourself, if you want to pivot. Like, I'm seeing Ross from Friends in my head right now screaming pivot.
To Rachel, pivot.
Yeah.
Move the couch to your right. Yeah.
Exactly. But it's a blessing. And so right now, I am still working really heavily in social media management. So I work on social media campaigns, so creating a balanced campaign and engagement with your audience and finding your ideal client, all of those things that kind of go into fueling your business by connecting with your ideal client, and just building genuine connections with the people that you're looking to. Target kind of feels like a weird word, but that is the market term, like target audience. And then with the post, what I do is I read previous posts from my clients, or I listen to their Facebook Lives or their IGTVs, and I pull copy from that. Or if they have a blog, I'll pull copy inspiration from that. So I'll take a line or two, an idea, and then I'll get a feel for their voice and then write out kind of, what they would say if they were having a conversation with someone about creating a social media campaign, or about learning to love yourself through trauma, or anything else. I work with 2 life coaches, so it's a lot of good work for me too, because I get to learn more about self-love and boundaries and all of that good stuff.
And your social work plays into that.
It does. It really does, because even in college, like I studied counseling, and I learned how to connect with people and how to provide them the best support that I could. And, just how to ask those reflective questions and get to really what's lying beneath, what they're saying, because you have the surface level conversation and then you have the deeper meaning. And I think that helps as a writer, like to be able to take an idea that they have and then really dig deeper into it. And one of my clients, he's like, yes, I love it. That's exactly what I wanted to say. And it just makes me so happy, because we just recently started. So I'm really pumped that I feel good about what I'm doing, and I'm, helping them keep their voice in their business, even if they're not the ones necessarily writing it, it's still their voice coming through. That's something I love to do for them, and I get to write, which I love to do. So it's definitely a win-win.
Something that I have to say about all this, like even talking with other alumni, we're all doing what we love to do. And if we don't love it anymore, we pivot.
Yeah.
Like, if it starts to feel heavy or not aligned or just not in the right time frame or space, like we're able to pivot and pivot quickly and still make money. Like, it's not like, oh, well, I should have probably 3 to 6 months saved up because it could take me 3 to 6 months to find a different opportunity. No, like your opportunity could literally be next week. Or like you, it was like, oh, I'm going to have all this time when I leave my job between clients to do things.
No.
I love that you said that, because that's exactly what happened to me. I like left my job. So like with LFP with me, I waited to find clients until I left my job, because my job was also very toxic and demanding, and I had a baby at home. So I soaked in everything that I could from the group and from my cohort. And then I left my job, and then I started, and I was like, I'm going to get all this organizing done. I'm going to be a homemaker for probably a good 2 to 3 months. Like, it's going to be a really great transition. And then within like, I think it was 2 weeks, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm working during nap time. I don't have time to do anything else. So it was just, I don't know. It can take off very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And you had said something also, like trying MLM jobs. And I had tried some of those too, but this is just, it's so different. And like my sister-in-law, she sells something on the side of her corporate job. She's like, oh my gosh, you would be such a great saleswoman. You do so great with virtual assisting. And I'm like, yeah, but it's different. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's so different. And it's more empowering, I feel. Like, not to dog on MLM jobs. I know there are a lot of women that make a lot of money off MLM jobs. A lot of money, but it's just, I don't know. For me, it's different. And
well, again, like you said, with MLMs, like I said, I met great women through that. So, and I love the products that I found, which is why I was a part of it in the first place, or the discount. But there's such a stigma with MLMs out there, that you do meet a lot of resistance from people that you want to talk to about it. And not only that, but with the whole pivot conversation, if you pivot, then you have to join another MLM and start from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And if you
whereas
don't
virtual assisting, you don't start from the beginning. Like,
right.
you just shift.
Yeah. Shift, create a bridge, keep your old clients if that still aligns with you as you bring new ones in, and then you can transition them out if you want. And I just think there's so much more that you can do with a virtual assistant business. You can build it. You can create a network of people that you're working with. You can stay a sole proprietor. It's really your journey, and it's not defined by you have to sell a certain quota a month to stay active, or you're no longer a virtual assistant. It's not, it's defined by you, the boundaries that you set and the rules that you set for your business and your life. And what's really nice, and I know that you have these flexibilities with MLMs too, but with a standard job, if I wanted to take Friday off to go, my family lives 2.5 hours to 3 hours away from me. And so if I wanted to go to my nephew's soccer game, I'd have to request it. And then what if it doesn't get approved? And then I can't go. But now, if I want to take Friday completely off, travel there, watch the game, hang out, enjoy my time, I can work my hours Monday through Thursday and just take Friday off. And it's not a big deal because I set my business up.
Yeah, you set your business up to serve you. And I think that, like, everything that you were just describing is you're setting up a foundation to serve you. And that's really what's being taught in LFP. Like, it's empowering. We want you to be empowered to go for it and to do things your way, because it really can be like that.
I think thinking back to some of our coaching calls, like there was a big mindset shift that had to happen coming from, the traditional sense that the world gives you of you have to have that stable job, you have to work that 9 to 5, and 9 to 5 comes with all of these rules and implications, and you have to unlearn some of that. And talking through that with Rebecca and some of the other girls was very, very freeing, because things that would seem like common sense to me now, because I've been working in the virtual space for a year or so now, but didn't make sense to me then because I couldn't see outside of my 9 to 5 goggles.
So 100%. And
yeah.
You even kind of get like that. I'm going on 3 years and there's still some small things that I'm just like, oh my gosh, like that is such a corporate America brain. Like you're aware of it, but yet like your subconscious still like has you do it, and then you fix it and everything's fine. But there's still things later because we're just so in tune, and I'm really excited for the next generation to have all these possibilities of like business online and different things to happen, because I think it'll really shift all of that and it'll really change a lot of things, which is exciting.
Yeah, I definitely still find myself I take Saturday, Sunday off, and it's so funny because it's the standard weekend, but I can have a weekend whenever I want a weekend. So if I want to take Sunday off because my husband's off work, but then I want to take Wednesday off and maybe I'll work Saturday. So it's fun to kind of play around with that.
Where can we find you? Where do you keep up with most of your time on social media?
Right now I'm on Instagram. I'm, playing around with TikTok and Pinterest too, because those are pretty big markets. And I want to make sure I'm on top of the algorithm and information there, but I'm on Instagram at novalise.virtual. And it was kind of inspired by writing in the beginning because I wanted to work with writers, but I didn't fully commit to it. And
now you're writing. So.
Now I'm there. So it just took me a while to fully embrace, like I can do what I want to do. But it's novel kind of combined with my name. So NOVELISE.virtual on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, we'll take that for you. Well, thank you so much for meeting with me today and sharing your story and your journey.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun.